And so now you're the first one I've talked to that has mentioned August, but my feeling, picking up the information that I do, what Morgan shares with me, and then what I might receive. But my feeling has been it is going to be one heck of a summer. And by the end of this summer, I don't think we're going to recognize, or either that, or it's going to be like, wow, did we just travel that far in the last 100 days? Yes. Because Franco De Nicola, Jason Estes, I think Sandra Walters talked about this a little bit. Everybody kind of had this thing where, hey, when, it's going to be like this, and then May's going to come, and about halfway through May, it's going to open wide up. And I know I don't explain that very well, but I get it. The feeling, the sensitivities, it just feels like we're being unchained. And like the only energy that's impeding or potentially impeding is just coming from here now. It's like I don't know, when they talked about instant manifestation for years and years and years, as I was part of this platform, I always looked at it as the secret kind of thing, right? Oh, I want a new car, but it's not. It's actually, and I've had this occur really loud. I was telling Morgan in the last 2-3 days, where I guess vibrationally, frequency-wise, like right before I left for the road trip, I jumped out of the house. I went and tried to get gas. I couldn't get the gas cap off. I lost my credit card, which I never do, my bank card. And then all of a sudden, I'm having a conversation the whole time. And then all of a sudden, they just came in and said, look, you know how to do this, right? And I said, yes. They said, well, then just do it. She taught me this 3-finger mudra. I put it on. 3 minutes later, boom, everything's fine. And then from there, everything was synchronistic and sequential. And in its communication that I'm on the right track. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, I feel like there's this element of instant manifestation, which is maybe better described as instant rebalancing, or re-anchoring in the higher dimensions that we've found ourselves step into these last few years with all the work we've done. Do you see, because I'm shooting for it personally, but do you see the potential of us doing what we might have once called supernatural, like physical teleportation, real bilocation? I mean, things that we normally do in dimension that we will be able to do in our physical bodies?
Oh, absolutely. See, this is what all the prophecies talked about in the new heaven and the new earth, that we will be able to, manifest, and there'll be no disease and no poverty and no illness, where these it wasn't just religious rhetoric or lofty platitudes. It was truly a profound knowing. And one of the things that helped me understand that so clearly is when we talk about this shift of the ages, the whole of creation moves up the spiral of evolution into the next octave. And when we used to go through near-death experiences and we'd pass through the dark tunnel, which is just a sea of negative energy around the earth, into the light, and our loved ones would meet us, they were really functioning in the 5th dimension. And there was no one there that was struggling to pay a mortgage or, working with healing their bodies. They were drawing unformed primal light and manifesting what they wanted. Well, with the shift of the ages, that realm is now the 6th dimension. All of our loved ones out of embodiment have moved to a higher frequency. And we moved into the initial impulse of this 5th dimension. And in this 5th dimension, all of the poverty and aging and things can't exist. Those are only 3rd dimensional frequencies from our carbon-based planetary bodies. And we are moving into, through this divine alchemy, 5th dimensional crystalline solar light bodies. And the beings of light said, if we could envision in this new crystalline frequency that we are moving in, and Todd, it's important for us to know that when we talk about the challenges, we think of the physical plane as being very real because we can see it and touch it with our physical senses. But the beings of light said that we are multidimensional beings, and the physical plane of Earth is actually the least real of all of the dimensions we abide in, and it is the very last dimension that is reflecting these changes. So through our higher multidimensional self. The new earth is already being co-created in all those frequencies. And the beings of light said, if we would envision now the most glorious expression of the new earth, what would our lives be like? And they said, we just dared to dream to the most imaginative, wonderful thing. They said, no matter how glorious our vision, it is going to be scratching the surface compared to what we are actually going to be creating. And that what we are going to be able to actually do is beyond the comprehension of our finite minds at this particular point.
Oh, I totally agree. And I totally agree with what you said earlier too. And it only makes sense, as above, below, macro to micro. If you look at the people, I'm sure with yourself too, because you made the reference early in the show that you haven't just spent 50 years serving out there. You've been working on yourself the whole time too. But the people talk about the dark night of the soul, and if you look at us as a collective one body, those of us who have walked the earth, and you look at the collective human story, we didn't go. We're transmuters. We're transformers. The degrees of the depths that we've gone into the darkness, so to speak, that by the degree we're going to be able to go into, and I've always believed this, that we're not going back to the original blueprint. We're not going back to these templates. We're actually have these already, and we're going to expand them based on this experience that we've had. And then one other thing, I just wanted to comment on what you said, because I totally get that we're the last stand, right? I mean, and I really feel more than ever this year that yes, this has been done in the energetic field, and boom, 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 it's coming, and we're still playing it out, and we still have the ability to say maximize potential moment by moment. But at the same time, I feel like we've gone into this, especially around the equinox in March. Like I walked outside and I went, whoa, wait a minute, something's totally different now. And then a lot of people started saying it. And what I'm getting at, it's like, I remember my higher self came in and said, what you don't understand is that we're learning from you too. In other words, we're giving you information, but you're giving us information, and you're starting to wake up to that now. And that just like really made the hair on my back just stand straight up. I thought, wow, we are actually equal aspects at the monadic, so to speak, the monadic oversoul roundtable. We are, right?
Not only equal, but critical. We have to do this. Nobody can do this for us. Nobody can save us. They can only bring in the light and respond to our invocations. There's a universal law that the call for assistance must come from the realm where the assistance is needed. So we need, in physical embodiment, need to make the calls. That's why we're here. And when you talk about the challenges, the beings of light have said, never try to judge what light burns in a crude exterior, because some of the most powerful beings of light have volunteered to delve into some of the darkest, heaviest places on the planet, because they had a better chance of awakening and pulling those energies into the light, because as I am lifted up, all life is lifted up with me. So many people have volunteered to go through really some powerful changes and lift this energy up. So absolutely, we are essential in this.
I agree with what you said too. One of my personal objectives is to merge, or do what I can as a representing Soulology, to merge the platforms of conspiracy, disclosure, and let's say starseeds into one voice, because there's enough lines of separation there, and we're supposed to be leading the way, But part of that has to do with the lack of coherence. Part of it has to do with these atrocities and these horrific things, and we know about these things. But at the same time, we also know from a higher perspective, what you said is true. Now, I had a lady on a couple of weeks ago. One of her callings is that she's working with victims of sex trafficking. And she was telling me about this lady that she was working with, and that the lady came in for a session, and she said, Todd, this woman who had been kidnapped and obviously assaulted, raped, and so on, imprisoned all these years. I met this woman, and she absolutely had nothing but compassion and unconditional love for her tormentors, for her abusers. And I was like, whoa, that's it. And then I asked her, I said, so is there, because the work she's doing isn't really categorically classified as energy practitionership, right? It's not looked at that way, although she implements it. So it's more of a traditional type of therapeutic thing. And I said, but, does anything happen like when you do, sessions and the higher self shows up or something comes in? She said, all I can tell you is that the people that I've sat down with that have endured this are masters. They're all masters. And she was just in awe of them. So I totally agree with what you're saying. And that's the type of frequency, I think, and information that a type of it that needs to be absorbed and the awareness expanded, because what you said earlier, all of these points of contention, even in the light worker community, they're just a line of separation, and it always starts with us, right?
And that's the way, as we know, there have been powers that be in the physical plane that have manipulated and controlled for eons of time, enslavement codes and all of those kinds of things to have, the greed, the corruption, all of that. Something had to happen to have billions of people cooperate at that level with our lifestyles that would allow a very few people to be controlling and manipulating and everything at that level. So there's no doubt that we've been going through all different kinds of things. But nevertheless, what's happening now is that those old paradigms are crumbling away. And this is part of what we've been hearing about COVID. We are never going to go back to the way it was. Everything is crumbling away, and things are shifting, and people aren't going to be able to close down their hearts. And just like what happened in the 60s with the civil rights and things like that, that's going on now. And anything that conflicts with unity consciousness, anyone that has an us against them consciousness, all of that's being pushed to the surface and being exposed, and people are shocked and disappointed that there's still that much going on in the outer world. But if it wasn't so tragic and destructive, it would actually be funny, because the earth is a schoolroom of learning, and we've all been everything. We've been everything, every religion, every gender, every lifestyle, everything, culture and creed and all of that, because we learn very different things in those experiences. And for us to be discriminating against another person because of the color of their skin or because of their religion, it's like our physical bodies are the car we drive. It's not who we are as beings. So this shift that's going on is awakening, and it is not going to be sustained. This is just coming to the surface, but it has to be exposed. It's gone on forever, the abuse of power, the shift, the greed, the corruption, all of that's gone on forever. But there is such an awakening taking place, and the masses of humanity are realizing that's what this mission is, for us to reach this moment. And I'll share with you that, for instance, May is considered the mystical month of May. May 5th was, it created this numerical frequency. 2021 is a 5-year, 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 1 equals 5. So on May 5th, it was the 5th month of the 5th day of the 5th year. And the beings of light said it created a numerical sequency. Now, there's always that kind of portal and gateway open during those times. But they said that the beings of light said that for the first time, cosmic law is allowing this brand new stargate to open to full breadth, because of the shifts we have taken since the March equinox that you're talking about, that we can withstand. So on March 5th, this new Stargate through all dimensions of consciousness into the highest frequency of fifth dimensional crystalline solar light, which is what we are using to transform our physical bodies into our light bodies and create the new earth. New frequencies are pouring into the planet at a cellular level. So this has created this quantum shift, and as you mentioned, is moving us. There'll be several other things. And I'll just share with your viewers that I do a weekly vlog that's just a little video that lasts about 15 minutes. And I send it out every Tuesday. We have a monthly newsletter, and all the information about these shifts like we're talking about, I make available through the weekly vlog and the newsletter. Those are free. You can just go to our website and sign up if you'd like to receive them. But the beings of light are guiding us through this process, and moving up to the summer solstice is going to be, tremendous energies and shifts taking place between now and even then.
Katie bar the door, like we say in Texas.
Right.
I'm excited. So much of what you say is validating for me, because I'm always, it's amazing to watch people and talk to people on this show, and then I look at my own experiences, and it always feels like what I'm getting is, I'm almost like as it comes out, it's almost like you're making it up. So there's always that level of, am I just crazy? Which is crazy, because we've all had so many divine episodes that, we forget. But anyway, what I'm getting at, there's something different since March. What you're speaking of feels like that everything going our way kind of thing. And then you see the path has got these benchmarks, and it's the eclipse at the end of the month, and it's the solstice, and I'm going, whoa, like 5 years ago, if you would have told me Lionsgate 5 years ago, I'd have been like, okay, well, but then each year they get bigger and bigger, and the representation in the field is bigger, and the continuity with what you see others are doing is bigger. I mean, I can't even begin to think what it's going to be like at the end of the year.
Right. And there's no turning back, and even though things may seem familiar, I keep saying we have to develop a new vocabulary, because with this new energy coming in, it's different spectrums of possibility. Yeah. It's new colors, new frequencies, new musical tones beyond anything we've ever experienced. And you can only say monumental and phenomenal and brand new so many times, But the reality is that every time you say that, as you're happening, it is, and even though we've gone through lots of March equinoxes, this one was different in a higher vibration than we'd ever experienced before. And next year it'll be even higher, They said, as I said, prior to COVID in January, that these were going to be collaborations with the company of heaven beyond anything that cosmic law had ever allowed or even attempted. I mean, can you fathom that?
Far out. That's all I can say. Well, no, and I agree, and of course, being in, we're very public, or I'm very public, I guess, because I'm on every day. Morgan tries to be reserved, she'll come on sometimes, but we're public about our relationship. It's part of Sology. I mean, we know that's part of our mission. So some of this is known information. But in our, so we got to download during this period in March. She needed to go back home. So for the human aspects, it was like, oh my God, but something had changed. The math had changed, right? Like you said, a new language. The math had changed. The geometry had changed. We understood. And so we did it. Now we look at this, and I'm just using this as an example of what you're saying. So we have these conversations, and I know, I guess we all kind of know our part, right? She has certain things that and I do too. Part of what I'm picking up on is there's no borders, there's no passports, there's no restrictions, there's no limitations. These constructs in the 3D are like you said, they're being deconstructed, they're crumbling, they're rooted in duality. But at a individual level, I feel like, and I could be wrong, I just feel like that myself and people like me, and maybe it's everybody, is being presented with the opportunity to transform or leap above and beyond these illusionary constructs. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's absolutely true. And the reality is that, when we talk about the changes have already transpired in the higher realms, well, the way it manifests is that we magnetize it from the realms of cause into the world of effects, which is the physical plane, through our thoughts, words, actions, and feelings. Mm-hmm. And so we have to connect with these energies. And I've been talking about this for 50 years, that in the not too distant future, and it's actually happened over all these decades, is that we're going to be called to travel all over the world or to connect collectively, which is what we're doing now with the internet, like today, this is what we're doing. And that we need to be free to do that because we are one and we are connecting. See, the difference is that people have attained their ascension in the past. They've completed their earthly sojourn, and after they leave the physical plane, they ascend into the next octave of their learning experience. This time, we're taking the earth, humanity, the elemental kingdom, and all life with us. And this happens every shift of the ages, that it moves forward, but never has a planet that's fallen to this level been given the opportunity, because the rest of our solar system in the last evolutionary period, the last shift of the ages, moved into the fourth dimension. And the earth agreed to take on the laggard souls, or the souls that weren't going to make it. And we made that offer as an act of divine love, with the idea of being able to raise our sisters and brothers up. But instead, that ultimately is what caused the fall, So even though this is complex, there's a lot of information that I've shared in my books and things that tell you the details of that. But the reality is that never has a planet offered that kind of compassion and love, the beings of light said. So nobody is willing to give up on us. We got in this mess by trying to help, shift the consciousness and raise the consciousness of our sisters and brothers. So we are receiving unprecedented assistance. That's what this unique experiment is. Yeah. And we are succeeding beyond the expectations of heaven. There is no turning back. Our success is guaranteed because it's already been victoriously accomplished in the realms of cause. The only variable is how long that's going to take. Yeah. And that depends on you and me and the rest of awakening humanity, how fast we transmute the surfacing negativity back into light, how fast we assist our sisters and brothers in shifting the mass consciousness into unity consciousness, so that we can all start functioning from that place of revering and reveling in our diversities, allowing that space, knowing that we can't have a negative thought, word, action, or feeling that doesn't harm all creation, let alone just us. It harms every facet of life, and that on the contrary, every bit of light we add to the world lifts everybody up. So
that's right.
We're called to fulfill our divine mission.
Yeah.
When you mentioned, you're the person you had been communicating with that was working with sex trafficking. We all have different missions. We need to not be manipulated. The forces, I call them the forces of imbalance, those that are just clinging to try to hold on to the power and the corruption and the greed, refusing to let go. Those forces in the psychic, through the psychic consciousness, don't say, I'm the sinister force and I've come to mess up your life. They say, I'm God, follow me. And so they always give you enough truth to make you think you're at the right place. And a lot of that's going on with like the conspiracy theories and things like that. There is manipulation. There are control of things that are going on in the outer world. But if we are perpetuated by knowing that, instead of invoking the light to transmute that back into light, if we are perpetuated into creating this war, this us against them, this battle, this fight, with anger and feeling victimized and all of this kind of thing, then we've just fallen hook, line, and sinker.
That's right. And we're great. I think we've done a great job of co-creating this realm, regardless of how they got us here. I'm kidding, but it was interesting too because, yeah, you're right about 2020 because. First of all, the whole COVID quarantine, the mask thing, energetically speaking, cutting off kids from going to school, taking people out of their routines of the 9 to 5, living with people in the same house and actually having conversations with them after 20 years because you never talked, self-introspection, so all that. And then that election came. And the election really polarized, obviously, and in the whole dark and light thing. And it really polarized in the lightworker community. So it was really interesting watching it. And everybody got pulled in. I got pulled in. There were times, how could you not, right? And then you wake up one day and you go, wait a minute. This is like you said, this is the part that's the least real. And the line is, well, the military's in control. I'm like, okay, well, is that supposed to make me feel good? You know what I mean? And based on the track record of history, I don't think that's, But anyway, the way that it's kind of played out now. So it's like you said, it all came up. It's all being seen for what it is. And now we're kind of standing there going, okay, what now? And I feel like that maybe this summer is the another beginning in the cycles of that you were talking about, where we start to see some homogenous verbalizations and narratives and commentaries and energies and frequencies from what we call disclosure, conspiracy, starseed, and they start to meld. And it's because one of the things I'm noticing is that there are personalities and then there are energies, and it looks like the people are really gravitating to energy now and less of the personality, if that makes sense.
Right. And every single one of those people in every belief system is a child of God that is here because they've been selected, that is working to move forward in the light. And so if we see people being led astray and still acting out really adversely, we need to flood them with light and ask their own presence to help intuitively guide them, rather than doing battle with them and hating them. And,
exactly.
That totally conflicts. And if we can just realize, hearing these words of what the collective global mission is for this harmonic, and August, see, this was normally when we have harmonic convergence, and it's the World Congress, and it's the anniversary of harmonic convergence each year, building on this momentum. And this collective mission is creating an evolutionary shift into a higher frequency of love, comprehensive divine love beyond anything we've ever known or experienced, in order to be able to sustain the presence of unity consciousness through the mass consciousness of humanity. Well, just saying those words, if that could happen in my interpretation, it's going to lift everybody out of this us against them consciousness into the realization of the oneness of the family of humanity and the elemental kingdom and Mother Earth and all life, let alone remind us of our collective I am presence, our individual God self, the company of heaven, and the legions of light throughout infinity that are focusing. And that's another very encouraging point for me, is that the beings of light have said the whole of creation is focusing on this moment on planet Earth, because once we collectively succeed in ultimately transmuting all of our human miscreations, the gross mutations of hate and perversion, and move into the full embrace of this light, we are taking that collective experience with us. So what the fall of humanity did is it moved us into the consciousness, dove us into the consciousness of separation and duality, which has been our bane since that time. What this shift means is that all of this experience is being taken and recorded in the halls of learning. So the beings of light said, from this moment forth, once we complete this ascension process, the sons and daughters of God through all creation will be able to learn about what happens when we make the conscious choice to separate from God or to use our gift of life in ways that aren't based in love, without ever having to go through the fall like we did.
Yeah.
When we volunteered to take on the laggard souls, we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into.
That's what I was told.
We had no concept of what heavy duty negative energy would be.
Yeah.
And it was just overwhelming.
Yeah.
But now the sons and daughters of God will have that. So they are saying, never again will the sons and daughters of God have to fall to the depths of suffering that the earth has created. So they are anxiously awaiting our assistance